Namo Buddhaya. Good evening. Welcome to Dharma Buddha TV. My name is Lisa Chu. Today, we begin our program as usual with the blessing service conducted by Venerable Watalar Silaratana of Sri Lanka. To achieve the desired calmness, please listen to the chanting mindfully and calmly now. We had Venerable Dr. Bhante Punaji yesterday to deliver a fascinating sermon entitled Happiness. Please now join us for the insightful second part of his sermon. Here is Venerable Dr. Bhante Punaji.
And now that person is convinced that the important thing is to get rid of these emotions, so that not temporarily getting rid of the emotions, but permanently getting rid of the emotions. Because only that temporary ridding of the emotions that convinced him that there is no real self. But when you get back the emotions, you experience the self. So this is why we speak of samadhi. So samadhi is that situation where the mind calms down and the body relaxes. And you enter that state where even the feeling of self disappears. So you are aware, that is the first jhana. That is called the first jhana. So, but there are 4 jhanas. The first jhana, the second jhana, third jhana, and the fourth jhana. So, I think we spoke about happiness and the disadvantages of going after sensual pleasures at the advantages of purifying the mind and we are beginning to get into what is called the jhanas, which is done through the proper method of meditation. So, I think for today that is enough. So, maybe next time we go into more about the meditation and the jhanas. So now you can ask questions.
So if there is no I in the thinking part, why is there an I in the emotional part? So is there a self only in one part of you? Is that because originally we were saying that there is no self. So why is there a self when you are thinking and you said thinking just goes on? There is no self. There's nobody doing the thinking. I am not doing the thinking. Right? My brain, my neurons are all firing up and they're doing the thinking. But what then causes this emotion you're saying is still self. But why is it then that self is not there when you're thinking and it's there when you're feeling? What is this thing that is absent at one time and present at another time?
Because the emotions are self-centered. All emotions are self-centered. What does that mean? When you desire something, you say, I want this. So a desire is self-centered, thinking of the self. Because you personalize the desire, that means this desire is mine. So when the desire comes up, you are personalizing the desire and you see two things. What you desire is outside, the desire is inside. And what is inside is mine. What is outside is not mine. That is how this desire starts the idea of self. You see? So the emotion is always like that. It's not only desire, I hate. The hatred is also doing the same thing. You personalize the hatred and alienate the object. And then so that is the idea of existence, the self. The self is based on the emotion and not on reason. When you begin to reason out, because I said existence itself is a static concept in a dynamic reality. So there is nothing static to call a self, because self is a static concept, because it is not changing. Past, present and future. The self is present in the past, present and the future. That is existence. But so rationally you see that there is no real self to talk about. But emotionally you feel the self. That is the problem. So that is why it is an emotional feeling, not a rational concept.
And the Buddha himself, did he talk about the self? He did not, right? He tried not to talk about self when he was questioned.
No, he talks about the self. There is a man who came and asked him, is there a self? he was silent. Then he asked, is there no self? Then he was silent. Is there both self and no self? Then he was silent again. Is there neither self nor no self? Then he was silent. So this man thought he doesn't like to speak to me and he went away. So the Buddha's disciple Ananda asked the Buddha, why didn't you answer that question? He said, if I said, yes, there is a self, then I am speaking against what I have already said. All experience is impersonal. Sabbe Dhamma Anatta means all experience is impersonal. And then, if I said there is no self, he might think I have been having a self all these days and now I have no self, so that I will not be reborn again. What is the I that he is talking about if there is no self? Because, you see, because he is thinking of a self, and when the person dies, he is not reborn again if there is no self to be reborn. So that means he is going on the wrong track. He doesn't think of that this self is derived from the emotions and not just from reason. Because they cannot give up the idea of self, even if you are convinced there is no self. Then they ask, then when I die, I will not be born again. What does that mean? If there is no self, who is the I that he is talking about? So they cannot get out of the idea of I. Even if you are convinced that there is no self, or then I must think that there is no self. Then what is the I that the I doesn't disappear. It's like that.
So that's what you didn't know. When you said about the necessary conditions,
Yeah.
the candle, the flame and everything, you said that the thinking started.
Now thinking part can understand that there is no self. But the emotional part cannot understand anything. There is no understanding for the emotions. Emotions are only wanting or not wanting. There is no such thing as understanding for the emotions. All understanding is done by the thinking part. And the thinking part is the activity of the brain. Emotion is not the activity of the brain. It is the activity of the whole body. When the blood begins to change due to hormones being secreted into the blood, and this being carried to the various parts of the body, and changes taking place in the activities of the body. So it's a completely physical thing, what we call the emotion. It's not a mental thing.
You mentioned the middle path. And then you talked about the Noble Eightfold Path. You mentioned the first, understand the problem. Will we talk about the rest?
There are 8 steps. Samma Ditti You should learn the Pali words, otherwise if you begin to translate and depend only on the translation, sometimes the translation doesn't give the meaning properly. So, Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vacha, Samma Kammanta, Samma Ajiva, Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi. Those are 8 steps. Now, Samma Ditti means you are using the thinking part to understand the problem and its solution. That is Samma Ditti. So the important thing is to understand this, and so the harmonious perspective means you have to understand a perspective means to see it from a different angle. Now when you take a picture, you have to hold the camera in such a way that you see it from a certain angle. So that is why I use the word perspective. It's not a different idea or something like that. It is a different way of looking at life. Harmonious perspective. And after that comes the harmonious visualization. That visualization is how you imagine. That means you are imagining the goal. I also call it the goal orientation. The harmonious goal orientation. That means your life. You are changing your goal in life. And what is that goal? To be free from emotions. That it becomes your goal. So your goal in life is a goal where you are free from emotions. But you have only changed your goal in life. And when the goal is changed, your behavior automatically changes. Now, you see, people are in a habit, say like drinking or smoking or some habit like that. Now, you find it very difficult to get rid of the habit. Why is this? That habit is based on a goal. You may not even know what the goal is. So that goal is unconscious. So if you can discover the goal, why am I smoking? What am I expecting? What is my goal? There must be some reason why I smoke. Then you begin to understand the goal, then you change that goal. Now, for example, a young man or woman takes to smoking. Why? Because that person sees film stars or some people they appreciate, they are smoking. Oh, I also want to be like that. And then smoking becomes a way of becoming superior or strong. Or you might think, oh, the strong men are people who smoke. So I also want to become strong like that. So that is, you are having a goal in life. Now supposing this person is in the habit of smoking and then thinks of building the body building with muscular. I want to have a muscular body. And you go to some person who is teaching how to build the body, and the teacher says, well, if you want to build the body, you have to give up smoking. Now his goal is to build the body. Automatically the smoking disappears. That because the goal has changed. So like that, by changing the goal, first you have to understand what your goal is. And by changing the goal, you change your way of living altogether. And that is, you change your speech, your action, and your lifestyle. I call it the lifestyle because this idea of goal seeking and this comes from Alfred Adler. And he was talking about this, and he was also talking about the goal and goal orientation. His psychotherapy was connected with that way of thinking. And this is also the meaning of this Noble Eightfold Path, where the goal is changed, and that is the Samma Sankappa. This is why I translate it also as harmonious goal orientation. And that results in harmonious speech, harmonious action, and harmonious lifestyle. Now lifestyle, because some people translate this as the occupation. We are not talking about any occupation, we are talking about changing your lifestyle completely. You are not only once in a way speaking good words or once in a way doing good actions. This is changing your whole way of living because your goal has changed. So your whole lifestyle has changed. But that is only in terms of behavior. But still, you may be having the desire for pleasure and the hatred of pain and things like that. So the next step is to learn to get rid of that. That is the right exercise, the harmonious exercise. So that just as you practice some exercise to build your body, now you are practicing these exercises to purify the mind, to free the mind of emotions. And that exercise has 4 parts: Samvara, Pahana, Bhavana, and Anurakkhana. So the first thing, supposing you want to grow flowers in a garden, what is the first thing that you do? Prepare the soil. And then you plant the seeds. And then after that, what do? You have to water it regularly and put the whatever, pick away all other plants that might start growing. So that in the same way we are going to purify the mind means you have to prevent bad thoughts coming into the mind. To prevent bad thoughts coming into the mind, You have to find out from where are the bad thoughts coming. The bad thoughts come into the mind through the senses. From what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, what you touch. So this is called guarding the senses. So that is the way you prevent bad thoughts entering the mind. Because last time we said that these emotions are not built into the system, starting from inside and seeking an outlet outside. Emotions are starting from outside and coming in. It is flowing in. And it starts with perception. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. So this is why the perception is done through the senses. And you are guarding the senses. That means when you guard your eyes, your ears, your nose, your tongue, your body. And that means when you see something, you don't think about the pleasantness or the unpleasantness. When you hear something, you don't think about the pleasantness or unpleasantness. When you smell something, you don't think about the pleasantness or unpleasantness. Like that, you guard all the senses. And elimination means if a bad thought is already there in your mind, you must learn how to get rid of it. When a bad thought is already there in your mind, how is it present in the mind? What does that mean?
Unconscious.
No. It means that there is an image in your mind. There is a picture in your mind. If you are angry, you have a picture of that person who made you angry, who did something to you. Or if you are in love or something like that, then you have the picture of that person you are in love with. Huh? So it's always the picture in the mind. And now, to get rid of that, you have to get rid of the picture. So you can change the picture. It's a matter of changing, taking another picture in your mind. If it is about the anger, you take a picture in your mind of a friend of yours. Or you can even telephone your friend, or write a letter to your friend, or you go and meet the friend, or you invite the friend to come to see you. So that way you change. This is what we psychologists do when they call it counseling or something. You are going to meet the counselor and then you speak about your problem. That is, you are changing the picture. Now mothers know how, when a baby is crying, what does the mother do? The mother will carry the baby and then show, oh, look at this, this is a nice picture here. They are changing the picture in the mind. You see, we have to learn to change the picture in the mind. It's like changing channels on TV. Press the button and the different picture comes up. So, like that, that is the elimination. That is how you eliminate a thought that is already there in the mind.
Even though a pleasant image.
What?
Pleasant images ඒවත් අයින් කරන්න ඕනේ.
මොකද?
Pleasant ලස්සන දේවලුත් අයින් කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා.
Yeah, whether pleasant or unpleasant, you are removing that. If it is an unpleasant image, you are having a bad emotion. And if it is a pleasant image, you think it is a good image, but it may be, it's a bad image because it is producing bad emotions. If you want to get rid of a desire for something, then you have to get rid of it. If you keep thinking it is a good emotion, then it will stay with you. You see, for example, you want to break your love for a person, then take the image off. Although you think it is good to have this image in the mind, or take a picture, and you take pictures. When you are in love with some person, you take a picture of that person, hang on your wall or keep on the table. Now that itself has to be removed. Huh? If you want to get rid of it. So that is the important thing. These pictures are the things that keep emotions in your mind. So the emotions are all based on pictures. That is why this visualization is important, that visualizing the goal. And there is that book called Secret. Have you read that book called Secret?
The secret, yeah.
If you read that book, that is also talking about the same thing. Have the image in your mind of what you want to be or what you want to do, and then you will have it. And that is what we do when we worship the Buddha, is also having the image of the Buddha. That is what you want to be. Buddha becomes your goal. And so visualize it. That's the important thing there. So, those are the two things, Samvara and Pahana. Samvara is prevention, Pahana is getting rid of what is already there. Now that is like preparing the ground to plant the seeds. And now the next step is to plant the seed. That is the cultivation. And how do you plant the seed? Now if you have understood the importance of the pictures, the plant, the seed is to hold the proper picture in the mind. Again, it is the picture that is important. That is the right visualization. And but here, one important thing, no, I am not going into details. If I go into details, again, problem. What are the things you want to get rid of? Now, when you practice these two things, what you want to get rid of is all the bad thoughts. And bad thoughts are what are called the hindrances. Pancha Nivarana, 5 hindrances. And these are Kamachanda, Vyapada, Tinamidda, Uddacha, Kukkucha, Vichikicha. Kamachanda means the desire for sensual pleasures. Vyapada means anger. Tinamidda means laziness or drowsiness. Uddacha Kukkucha means anxieties and worries. Worries and anxieties. And Vichikicha is where your mind is divided into two. The emotions and reason going in opposite directions. That is the vicikiccha. Not doubt. Some people translate it as doubt. This has nothing to do with doubt. Doubt is to question, is it true or is it false? That is doubt. But here, vicikiccha is what is called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance means your mind is divided into two. Say you are supposed to be practicing the 5 precepts and you are not supposed to be drinking alcohol. Now your mind is now divided. Shall I take this drink or shall I not? That is the vicikiccha. So that you come to a point where you are not able to make a decision, or you see some money, no one is around, you have some big amount of money someplace, shall I take this or not? If you take it, you are stealing. If you are not, then you are good. So this is the important thing. So this is the difference between the emotion and your reason. Are you being carried away by the emotion or are you being carried away by the reason? That is the vicikiccha. So it is not a matter of doubt, it's not a matter of indecision.
How do you say 7 factors of enlightenment in Pali?
7 factors of enlightenment in Pali.
Yes.
Panchanivarana.
No, Bojjhanga.
Enlightenment. Oh, Bojjhanga is not 7 factors of enlightenment. Bojjhanga is 7 steps in the process of awakening. 7 steps in the process of awakening. Not just... so my translations are different because it
How do you say the 7 factors
gives
of
the
enlightenment
meaning
in Pali?
out properly. These are 7 steps in the process of awakening. Now, cultivating that 7 steps in the process of awakening is the real meaning of vipassana. And the first 2 things, samvara and pahana, is what is called samatha meditation, samatha bhavana. So this way, and then samma sati. Samma sati is really, now you are beginning to practice the vipassana part, which is to change the way you think. I said the way you think determines your emotion and that determines your action. So now you are changing the way you think. And that is, this whole process of awakening is to change the way you think. You are awakening from the dream of existence. Now we'll be discussing these things in more detail later. So this is simply talking about the Noble Eightfold Path. But that is, the last one is Samma Samadhi. And Samma Samadhi is the purity of mind, which is also the tranquility of mind, which is the harmonious equilibrium.
A song.
Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am blooming as a flower. I am fresh as a dew. I am solid as a mountain. I am firm as the earth. I am free. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am water reflecting what is real, what is true, and I feel there is space deep inside of me. I am free, I am free, I am free.
Our next segment features Venerable Dr. Chandana as he explains convincingly Chula Vadala Sutta from the sacred text of Majjhima Nikaya. In this discourse, a layman by the name of Vishak asked a nun named Dhammadina about various difficult matters, including some of the highest meditation attainments. The Buddha fully endorses her answer. Here, Venerable Dr. Chandana of United States explained in detail the discourse for the benefit of Dharma learners. Please welcome Dr. Chandana Maha.
That's in Pali, we have one single word for that, putujjana. You're laughing. Who does not have the ability to recognize the noble ones, while remaining unskilled and unwise as it relates to learning the Dhamma, also lacks the ability to recognize any superior persons, nor is he skilled or wise as it relates to learning from the Dhamma that these superior persons teach. Furthermore, such an undisciplined, mediocre person looks upon form as if it were to have a separate selfhood, a personality, believing that whatever has a self must have its own separate form, or that whatever has form must also therefore have its own separate self. So, looking at something as separate. So, you look at form, using the body, the material part of the body. One of the best examples is to play this game with yourself. During the day, I used to do this as a layman when I would be on the phone with some people, difficult conversations. Sometimes I would have to have a difficult session, even as a therapist, on the phone because the patient was unable to come to the clinic. So it's really pushing your buttons. You're really trying to help. They're really refusing. So meanwhile, you're trying to squeeze in some interventions, some tools that could be helpful. And sometimes it would go well, sometimes it wouldn't. But then anyhow, you have to end the call. And then you're easily caught in your world of worries, thoughts, concerns. Did I do enough? Did I not do enough? you know, am I a good therapist? I suck at this, or I shouldn't, maybe I should leave, quit, all these thoughts. And then you look at your hand. Or sometimes I've mentioned to you in having individual interviews, if you're not wearing socks, pull your chair back and look at your toes, wiggle them. Look at your toes. So you can do that, but look at them while you're doing that. It's very grounding. It settles you down. You're connecting back to the four great elements, dhatu. We forget that. Because most of the time we are objectifying it. This is my hand. What is a hand? It's just a conventional usage, a term that we all understand as this thing. Well, there's no hand, it's a body. Even there is no body as such, because it's just biochemical, metabolic reactions happening at this point in time under certain conditions. We don't like to say all those words, we just say body or hand. There's 28 different bones just in this portion of the body. 28. This little part. And I didn't even mention about the muscles, the fats, the ligaments, the tendons, the traffic of blood cells going in and out. My hand. So she's saying there isn't that identification with this as a separate thing. If there is, then she's saying there's upadana. Pancha upadana kanda. She's still responding to his question. She didn't just walk away from that. She's continuing, elaborating on her response. So she first covered namarupa, the form, rupa. Furthermore, such an undisciplined, such a putujjana looks upon feeling, vedana, as if it were to have a separate selfhood, a personality, believing that whatever has a self must have its own separate feeling. So I'm just going to abbreviate because she's going to say the same thing about the 5 khandas. Furthermore, such a putujjana looks upon memory. I like to translate sanya as memory or mental associations. They make more sense to me than just using the word sanya. Perception. It's too limiting for me, the word perception in English for sanya, because it changes. So they look upon memory or any mental association as if they have a separate selfhood, a personality. Further, such a putujjana looks upon habitual tendencies, sankharas, as if they were to have a separate selfhood, a personality. This is who I am. This is how I think, okay? I am my habits. How many times do we say that? This is how I think, okay? Stop trying to change me. Ever heard of that? What is that? I am my own habits. Well, where'd you get those habits? You didn't buy them from the store. You've been developing them. You've been adding on to that. So they had been accumulated and are accumulating. They're not you. They're conditional. So when the person is taking this whole idea of selfhood objectively, really, they're forgetting that it is conditioned. And that's why Nibbana is the unconditioned. And that's where she's leading the conversation to. And that's where he wants her to be led, to lead him to. Furthermore, such a putujjana looks upon consciousness as if it were to have a separate selfhood or personality. Eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, smelling consciousness, all these things, when they happen, they are so real, so crystallized, so thick, so material, that we think of them as the only thing that is real. When you see something shocking, it becomes your whole reality. When you hear a loud screeching or a sound or a scream or something very lovely, it arrests your attention. You become completely enslaved by it for that time. It becomes the only reality for you. That is what she's trying to say, as taking it as a separate, having a separate selfhood. That's when the person is becoming or using the Pancha Upadana, Khanda, the 5 grabbing aggregates. The aggregates are not grabbing. We are the ones who are grabbing these attributes and saying, this is me, this is mine. That's how she's saying you can break the source of personality. This, friend Visakha, is how the view that one possesses a separate personality comes about. And how does, Venerable Lady, the view that one possesses a separate personality not come about? Here, friend Visakha, the disciplined, this is not the Putuja anymore, the disciplined noble disciple who possesses the ability to recognize the noble ones while remaining skilled and wise as it relates to learning the Dhamma, also has the ability to recognize superior persons, while he is skilled and wise as it relates to learning from the Dhamma that these superior persons teach. So she's from the start saying, well, if you want to have this end, we're then talking about a person who is a Sekha. Sekha is a noble disciple in training. An Arahant is an Aseka, someone beyond training. So a Sekha is a person who is able to recognize a holy one. They don't put a noble holy one, Sappurisa, or any of the 8 stages, the Sotapanna, or an Anagamin, or a Sakadagamin, on the same level as a Satguru or somebody. They will not come back and say, oh, Bhante, or this, this teacher says this, and they don't know how to differentiate. They put them on the same level. That is still a person who's a Putujana, who does not have the ability to recognize a person whose heart is drenched in the Dhamma and someone who is not. So she's saying, first of all, we need to be talking about a person who's a noble disciple. That's one. Second, so now she will present the opposite of what she said earlier. Meaning, furthermore, such a noble disciple, disciplined noble disciple, does not look upon form as if it were to have a separate selfhood. So she's saying, such a person does not look at form and give it a separate self-identity. When they look at the hand, they see it's just a hand. Meaning it has the 28 bones, the ligaments, the blood, the fat tissues, the tendons, and it is unstable. It is conditioned. It could suddenly develop rheumatoid arthritis. It could go like this. It could start hurting you. You could get it jammed inside a door. It's not going to follow your every little bit of, command. You don't have control over it 100%. Okay, so it is conditioned. Okay, I see you. Material form. End of story, moving on. So for such a person, it doesn't develop. Nor believes that whatever has a self must have its own separate form. Nor thinks that whatever has form must also therefore has its own separate self. So whether you're looking at something that has form, such a person will not give it or attribute to it a self difference. as human beings throughout cultures, we have given such credence and appreciation to poetry. They have a special status in human history. In high school, I used to read literature, and you would see a poet who describes a lake. In fact, one time I had to memorize a poem. I think it had 36 sections, each section had 6 lines, and I'm terrible at memorizing. And I think we were being tested on it, so I scored lousy. But the poet had spent so much time, I think 36 or 40, you know, I forgot what you call them, like not quatrains, but it was, so it has sextets? Yeah, stanzas, yes. But each one of these stanzas, they're full of imagery, characterizations, anthropomorphication of this thing, which is in biological terms called abiotic, lifeless. We appreciate things that people give a self-identity to. But the Dhamma is turning that on its head. Years ago when I used to do animation, I was studying to become an animator, a different lifetime almost, and the instructor who was teaching us used to work with at Disney, and there were a group of men. They were called the 9 Old Men, and they were legendary. They were the ones who were responsible for every old classic. What was it? Cinderella and the Seven Dwarfs. All these, was it Cinderella? No, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Cinderella, all these different animation classics the 9 Old Men had worked on, and he was a baby, like I'm a teenager when he started working with them. So he was in his late 70s when he was teaching us. He was so skilled of an animator, he would give him anything that is inanimate, a bottle, a pillow, a cushion, spectacles, a shirt, a cup. He would turn it into a character, and funny character. He would anthropomorphize them. That's what we do as people. We are excellent animators, although many of us might not be able to draw as he could, but we do this all the time. We do this with our ideas, with our thoughts. And that's why it's so foolish when you bring it up and you look at it with sati. Oh, okay. So with a seka, with a noble disciple, that's not going to happen. They will soon enough catch it before it develops into this idea of a self. So she'll continue with the other aggregates. Furthermore, such a disciplined noble disciple does not look upon feelings as if it were to have a separate self, personality. And she goes to next, excuse me, with sanya. Next she goes to sankharas. And finally, furthermore, such a disciplined noble disciple does not look upon consciousness as if it were to have a separate selfhood, a personality. This, friend Visakha, is how the view that one possesses a separate personality does not come about. It takes effort. Many times people think that arahantship or awakening is just going to fall from the sky. It's not. It requires effort. You need to check the quality of your thoughts to begin with. But many of us want to have this attainment, which is completely false. We've probably gotten it from some other religion or thinking. Like, you know, in Christianity there's revelation, or the monotheistic religions have that. It's got to be given by this higher power. There's no such thing in the Dhamma. You have to work for it. Sometimes more than others. But sometimes the work that you've done will show itself, will reveal itself. But you have to keep on doing the work. At least bring in sati. It's not going to happen. Your mind is not going to calm down. Your thoughts will not stop on their own. Okay? Give up that whole notion. You must apply. If you don't go to a job, do you anticipate getting a paycheck? A direct deposit without working from that job? Exactly. You have to show up. Okay, but when it comes to the Dhamma, somehow miraculously we're waiting. Okay, how come the attainments aren't happening? Okay, chop chop, let's go. I should have been a Sakadagami by now. Come on, what's going on, Dhamma? You have to work on it. But wisely. Wisely. And what, Venerable Lady, is the Noble Eightfold Path? Friend Visakha, it is none other than the Noble Eightfold Path delineated by the Blessed One. That is, right view, right intentions, right speech, right actions, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right collectedness of mind, samadhi. Of course, he knows that she knows what the Noble Eightfold Path is, but there's a reason why he's asking questions. They are almost like, in English we say, a lead-in. It's like a beginning, so you know there's a catch behind it. After the question, something is leading up to something. Venerable Lady, is the Noble Eightfold Path conditioned or not conditioned? He's testing her now. You can tell he's testing her. Friend Visakha, the Noble Eightfold Path is conditioned. The mind likes to put things in black and white. It's lazy, just like the body. Sometimes because we think of the Noble Eightfold Path, because it's part of the Four Noble Truths, then it must be, because it takes us to Nibbana, so it must be unconditioned like Nibbana. Not so. Not so. Many of you drove to get into, well, to get here. Drove a car or were in a car or a bus. Where's the car? Is the car here? No, it had to stop somewhere. Maybe parked downstairs at the edge of the street. But it was used to get you here. That was conditioned. Think of it in those terms. Sometimes bringing images that are much more relatable to you really can drive the point home. Make it more understandable, the Dhamma. Friend Visakha, the Noble Eightfold Path is conditioned. Venerable Lady, are the three trainings, even that question was not there alone, you know, he's got something there at the end. Venerable Lady, are the three trainings included within the body of the Noble Eightfold Path? Or is the Noble Eightfold Path included within the three trainings? The three trainings, if you remember, Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Many times we forget that they are very much part of the Noble Eightfold Path. In fact, you cannot have the Noble Eightfold Path if it doesn't have Sila, Samadhi, Panya. That's where Venerable Dhammadinna is going to beautifully clarify this right now. Friend Visakha, it is not that the three trainings are included within the Noble Eightfold Path, meaning they are not separately listed in the Noble Eightfold Path as Sila, as Samadhi, as Panya, but nevertheless they're included in it. So don't expect to find them segmented, labeled, structured like that, but nevertheless they go hand in hand. And she's going to go ahead and explain further. But the Noble Eightfold Path is certainly included within the three trainings. Thus, right speech, right action, and right livelihood come under the training in Sila. What a beautiful way of explaining it. Very clear, concrete. right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Physical actions. Very concrete. You cannot think about Sila and say, I'm practicing Sila when you're still burglarizing or stealing office supplies from your office and expecting your children to teaching them Sila. Mommy, where did you get all those pencils? The office. My office. Yeah, but Mommy, did you ask the boss if it's okay? Well, it's in my office. It has my label on the door. I have the plaque and everything. Yeah, but Mommy, did you ask? Did she say it's okay? Johnny, stop asking Mommy that question. Action, livelihood. Sila is found in the Noble Eightfold Path. But she doesn't stop there. Right effort, right mindfulness, and right collectedness of mind come under the training in Samadhi. You have to have Sila in order for you to taste Samadhi, the fruits of Samadhi. That's why many of the 10-day retreats in the world that are going on, everybody's going. I'm always eager to see the personality changes happening in the person. And unfortunately, most of the time I am disappointed because there is no Sila being emphasized. Sadly, because the person is fighting, there is this psychosis, there is this schism happening within the person. Of course, exceptions are beautifully occurring here and there, where the person internally knows Sila must be there. So, whereas right view and right intentions come under the training in Panya. Remember, I constantly say how this path is based on wisdom, Panya. This Dhamma is based on wisdom. Last week we talked about the Kalamas. It's not oral tradition, it's not based on tradition as such, not just logic, not just speculation, intellectualizing. This path is not based on those things. They're part of it, but it's based on wisdom, experimentation, understanding. That's another word for Panya. So what you cannot have those without right view. And your right intentions have to be there. Why do you come to a retreat? Why do you meditate? That also has to be addressed. Many people sit down to meditate because they want to experience relaxation. I tell people you can go and get a hot shower and you can be relaxed. That's not meditation's purpose. It happens, side effect. So the intention has to be right. You have to be curious to develop into a sense of discovery, curiosity, development of your personality. That's why we're sitting ultimately. And what, Venerable Lady, is Samadhi? Collectedness of mind. What are the sharpening tools for Samadhi? What are the requirements for Samadhi? What leads to the steady development in Samadhi? See, so many aspects of Samadhi. How can we sharpen Samadhi? What are the requirements? The tools? And what makes us enhance, cultivate, and develop Samadhi deeper and deeper? Friend Visakha, when the mind comes together and becomes collected, ekagata, it's in Pali, that is Samadhi. She's answering each of his questions, by the way. The 4 foundations of mindfulness are the sharpening tools for Samadhi. The 4 foundations of mindfulness. So earlier the question on my thoughts, the stories, this or and that are happening. And my suggestion there, or direction, was to point the mind to other areas of your life instead of compartmentalizing your meditation. Bringing your meditation into your life, into your kitchen, into your bathroom, into your job site. All these things means that you are practicing the 4 foundations of mindfulness, meaning your body, kaya anupassana, vedana anupassana, feelings. You're with your chitta, you're watching the mind's fluctuations, the state of mind. And then Dhammanupassana, different phenomena that occur, the relationships of phenomena. You're seeing anicca, you're seeing dukkha, you're seeing impermanence. You're seeing the Four Noble Truths suddenly. That means you're constantly engaged. That is applying the Satipatthana. That's what she's saying. Instead of looking at meditation simply as a side gig, side job. It has to be the primary job. That's when your sati will not allow any thoughts to come in and out just like that. You're standing guard, you're alert. She's not done yet. The 4 right efforts are the requirements for samadhi. It's meaning the tools necessary. To constantly practice, develop oneself in, and be committed to these factors all lead to the steady development in samadhi. Constantly practicing. Any of these will actually connect you with the other aspects. That's why whenever you study the Dhamma, if you just hold on to one aspect of the teachings, you're holding on to every other aspect. That's why I've never encountered anything in all of the years that I've been studying different religions, philosophies, and things like that. Never have I come across something so thorough, so beautiful, so elegant. You hold one, you understand one aspect of the Dhamma, and you pretty much have understood the other aspects without knowing. It's mind-bogglingly beautiful, and only a Buddha can actually reveal that aspect of the Dhamma. So that's why we have to cherish it, we have to protect it through our lifestyle, the practice. Your life must reflect the practice. Venerable Lady, how many are the sankharas? So now he switches gears. Remember last week we talked about in the Dutiya Kamabhu Sutta, there was also some mention about sankhara. So now we're also going there, and you see how he's also going to talk about the cessation of perceptions and feelings again. Friend Visakha, the sankharas are 3 in number: bodily sankharas, verbal sankharas, and mental sankharas. Venerable Lady, what are the bodily sankharas? What are verbal sankharas? And what are mental sankharas? Remember, it's not like he doesn't know these things. He's inquiring, he's testing. And maybe you can also, I'm feeling this, maybe he is proud of her. I'm so proud of you. You have outdone me. Let me dig some more. Let me ask some more. Oh, I can't believe you know this? So there's that healthy pride, I would say. Not arrogance. Just the sense of satisfaction in knowing that she's gone deeper than him. Friend Visakha, the in-breaths and the out-breaths are the bodily sankharas. Thinking and pondering are verbal sankharas, while perceptions and feelings make up the mental sankharas. And how, Venerable Lady, are the in-breaths and the out-breaths considered to be bodily sankharas? So he's revealing, he's not stopping at one point. She gives him an answer, he's like probing her some more, trying to understand, what did you mean? How are thinking and pondering verbal sankharas, and how are perceptions and feelings mental sankharas? Friend Visakha, the in-breaths and the out-breaths have to do with the bodily processes, and thus in-breaths and out-breaths are bodily sankharas. As a biological organism, as an organism, you need to have some form of respiration, some type of give and take with your environment. To live, that means you need to be, in some form, breathing. In other words, to be an organism, to be living, you need to move. Move. Sometimes it's also called motility in some cases. Movement is necessary. What does a dead body not do? Well, it doesn't breathe, for one. It doesn't move. A thing doesn't move unless something is acted on it. Newtonian physics. I think it's the second Newtonian law. We need movement to be alive. In fact, any movement necessitates breathing. Even if you're holding your breath and you're trying to move, you're actually using the oxygen and the other gases that you inhaled, and their effect, their benefits that are still in your system. You're benefiting from those until it turns toxic and you need to expel those out of your and inhale new oxygen. In fact, Bhante Nyananda, I think I've mentioned this before, he used to call sankharas preparations. He's the only one that I know who's used that definition for preparations. And I find them specifically apt and adequate, at least for the two sankharas, the kaya and the vachi, the bodily and the verbal. Why? Because we need to prepare, we need to brace ourselves. When you are taking a step, when you are being hit by something, when you need to open a difficult door, a handle, what do first? Right? What is that? You prepare the body. You infuse yourself with life force. So logical, so practical. Sometimes we think of sankhara so out there, you know, esoteric, mystical, some otherworldly, yeah, you know, 8th jhana, 9th jhana, business. No. Sankharas, bodily sankharas, breathing. Come down to earth, buddy. Here, right here. Stay here. The breath. And everybody has that sankhara, if you're alive. Friend Visakha, so she's now answering Vachi Sankhara, the verbal one. Before one breaks into speech, one engages in thinking and pondering. Therefore, thinking and pondering are verbal sankharas. It is sub-vocal speech, Bhante Nyananda also would say. It's a preparation. Before you open up your lips, your mouth, and you unleash your words to the world, whatever kind of words, and oftentimes when there is no right view or when there is no sila, it is the bad kind of statements. It's coming from ignorance. You unleash it to the world. It doesn't happen just there. It's not an affair with your mouth or your tongue, you know. There was a preparation in the mind, the chit-chat going on in the brain, in the mind. That's why the real speech happens here. When we're practicing Noble Eightfold Path, Samma Vaci, the right speech. What is that? Samma Vaci. The right speech with ourselves. What is the communication between my ears? That's where verbal sankharas are starting. thinking and planning or pondering. I like the planning part more because the brain loves to problem solve. Well, I'll do this, and then do this. No, don't do that. It's like a mini schizophrenic inside the brain. In many ways, we are actually schizophrenics. We just don't come out and say it. It's too embarrassing. The real schizophrenics, they just stop caring. They just say whatever comes up. Otherwise, we're having this multiple personality disorder going on all the time in our head. We're fighting. And I see many nodding heads here. So, verbal sankharas are preparations. It's subvocal speech. And then the last phase of that is your lips moving. And the air comes in and you unleashed hell. When there is no wisdom. But of course, in the case of a noble disciple, they're not talking about a Putujjana at this point. Remember, we're talking about an Anagami and an Arahant. So they're not going to be dwelling too much on the Putujjana level of explanation. And then she goes, perceptions and feelings are considered to be mental processes because they purely involve the mind. For they are things tied closely to the mind, therefore perceptions and feelings are mental sankharas. Venerable Lady, how is the cessation of perceptions and feelings attained? So now, about the cessation. Sanya Vedaita Nirodha Samapatti, which is the 9th jhana, you can think of it. So I noticed that the time is running pretty fast, so I'm going to speed the process a little bit. Friend Visakha, it does not occur in a way where the bhikkhu who attains to the cessation of perceptions and feelings would reflect to himself thus: I am about to attain the cessation of perceptions and feelings, or I am now attaining to the cessation of perceptions and feelings, nor I have just attained, I just walked into that state. It's not like that. And if you notice, it's exactly the same response that Venerable Kamabhu gave last week to Venerable to Chitta when he asked the same question, because the process is exactly the same. You are not mentally conscious when you are getting into the cessation of perceptions and feelings. You have prepared the mind before. The mind has prepared itself as it has moved through the jhanas, from the most basic levels, rupa jhanas, to the arupa jhanas. So it has refined itself. So you have made the determination at one point that today, as I go through the jhanas, I'm determining to go into the cessation of perceptions and feelings and stay in it for, let's say, 20 minutes or 2 hours. And remember, this is a state, and this is coming from a person who's nanagami, right? Visakha is nanagami. So he knows how to get in it, as she also knows. So she has the right to, and not every arahant can get in it, by the way. But because he's asking her this question, that means she's answering it, we know she can get into this state, which is very, lofty state to be able to, because not every arahant is. Rather, his mind has already been developed in such a manner that naturally it unfolds into and opens up to that state. It flows into that state. It's a natural process. If you've ever seen an avocado tree, or any tree, fruit tree, when it's fully ripe, the fruit drops on its own. It's ready. Boop. Just be there when you to catch it. Venerable Lady, as the bhikkhu is attaining to the cessation of perceptions and feelings, what ceases first? The bodily sankharas, the verbal sankharas, or the mental sankharas? Friend Visakha, as the bhikkhu is attaining to the cessation of perceptions and feelings, the verbal sankharas are the ones to cease first. Next, the bodily sankharas, and then finally the mental sankharas are the ones to cease last. So the first to go, to stop, is the internal chit-chat. There is no more this. And on retreats, when you are encouraged to maintain noble silence, that is trying to induce that same level of silence in the mind, to make you become more comfortable with having silence in your mind, in your day-to-day life. When you're sitting on your bed in the middle of the night, or you woke up suddenly, check to see the mind if it's still noisy, if some thought is ricocheting left and right like a marble in an empty box. Or can you allow that to settle and just maintain noble silence? So that is the first thing that will stop completely before or as the person is going into the cessation of perceptions and feelings. And right after that, there is the bodily sankhara that shuts down. The breath becomes almost undetectable. There's no breath, as it were. You're not like, you won't see that process. And then finally, perceptions like memories won't come in. They won't be invading. You won't be responding to any feelings, even if someone comes and touches you at this point. Unlike the case would be, let's say, if you were in the fourth jhana.
Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am water, reflecting what is real, what is true, and I feel there is space deep inside of me. I am free, I am free, I am free.
This wraps up our broadcast this evening. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact us at info@buddhadharmatv.com. We work hard to share the noble, peaceful, and sublime teachings of Buddha with you, helping you pursue the spiritual path under his wisdom. Please encourage and support those interested in the rational and enlightened teachings of Buddha. Thank you for watching. We believe our programs on the Buddha Dharma TV will inspire peace lovers around the globe. Good night. Namo Buddhaya.